to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and today we're working on the circular motif shawl, just like so. It's a free pattern available on redheart.com. There's a link in the more information of this video, and you can go there, do a direct link instead of searching for it. So in this pattern they're asking for you to do boutique treasure, just like so. This is not boutique treasure just like you see. This is actually boutique midnight, and I used 4 balls of boutique midnight throughout this project. All the large motifs in here are boutique midnight, and you can see that the colors are transitioning, and that's as per the yarn itself that's actually happening. So there's a no-brainer with that. And then all the connecting ones in between were red heart changes, just like so. So there's 4 balls of midnight and 1 ball of red heart boutique changes in order to complete this. So today we're going to be concentrating on all 3 of the motifs as we put them together. I'm going to show you some tips, and we're going to do this all within one video right now. To start off with, we're going to be doing the larger motifs first, just like you see here. And what I really want you to notice is that there's 12 points of this motif, and that's exactly what you're looking for. Every time you have 2 points, just like so, they're going to be connecting to a neighbor, and you can see that there's 2 points connecting to these ones over here. And then what happens is that you have 1 point, 2 point, the middle one is connecting with the neighbor that is right in here, and then the next 2 are with the bigger, larger. And again, just like you see. So as long as you can understand that there's 12 points of this, that they're all connecting and working with their neighbors in some way, it's going to be a lot easier. So today we're going to start off with the first motif. There obviously is not going to be any neighbors, so the first one is very easy. They're actually all very easy, but every time you do one after the first one, you want to connect it as you go, and we'll be showing that how to do that next. I'm going to be using Red Heart Boutique Midnight, just like you see here, and I'm going to be using a size H or a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. Now if you're following along with our challenge, you do need to follow the pattern, but you can substitute your yarn on your hook as long as you're following the pattern just right. So let's begin. We're going to do a slip knot. Remember, there's always slower videos on how to get started with crochet available on redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. So let's begin. We're going to be doing a chain of 10. So remember, this first one, the slip knot, never counts as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and that is the very center, just like so. And we want to just grab it into the first chain, pull the yarn through, and to form the first ring, just like this. We want to keep this straggler on the outside because we're going to bury it so that it doesn't have any stragglers left out after that. So let's continue along with this project. The next part of this project is that we want to chain 3. In the rules of crochet, chaining of 3 counts as 1 double crochet. So just like you see now, this is now going to count as 1 double crochet, so therefore I need you to do 23 double crochets around this center ring. So I just kind of grab it at the top because it's just easier. I'm just kind of applying pressure down on the slip knot or on the stitch, and I'm just going to double crochet, and I'm only going to do that for the first one, and then I can just crochet as normal. So that was 2. So I'm just going right into the center of the ring. You notice how the straggler is down on top. We just want to pretend that it's all part of the ring, and therefore the end will be missing, or actually it would be well hidden. So let's continue along. I need you to do a total of 24, and that includes that first chaining of 3, and just go all the way around so that you have 24 of these double crochet, and we're going to just join up with a slip stitch in just a second. Now I've gone all the way around now to do 24, and I just want to slip stitch it to the top. It's really important on the counts of this, so I always made sure that there was 24 before moving along, because if you run out of these stitches going all the way around, then it becomes a problem. You will notice that the circle is kind of lopsided. Don't worry about it. It will straighten out. It's just a matter of the stitches just all aligning properly. So very easy step. This is going up on the next row. We want to chain 1, and then we're just going to single crochet exactly where we joined. Just like that. Very easy. And then all I need you to do is just chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we just skip 1 stitch down on the bottom, and we go to the very next one for a single crochet, and do that again. So 1, 2, and 3. So we're chaining a 3, skipping a stitch, and single into the next. So 1, 2, 3, skip a stitch, single into the next, and I need you to do that all the way around. And think about it this way, you just put 24 stitches in this thing, so if you're doing it like you are now and you're skipping a stitch, that means that you'll end up with 12 of these going all the way around. But don't worry, we'll come back up in just a second. Just continue to do that. Chain 3, skip 1 with a double or single crochet, and continue along all the way around. So I'm just about finished. I still have one more gap to go, but don't rush ahead because I want to show you, because this next stitch is not what you think it is. So I've already, just for speed, I've already counted to make sure, and there's actually 11 of these right now, and I'm about to do the 12th. And how you do the 12th is not chain 3 and then single into there to slip stitch. You actually are going to double crochet over to where you did the chain 1 over here and double crochet back, just like so. And essentially what that means now is that this center point is where you're going to be starting next. So that's what they wanted you to do. So if they wanted you to start above where you did the single crochets, then they would ask you to single crochet or single slip stitch over here. But because they want you to end up in the center of the 2 points, that's what they would ask for, and that's typical in motifs. So let's move along to your next step. We're just going to simply chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we want to double crochet ourselves into this gap space, so right underneath, and just double crochet, and now chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I want you to double crochet into the very next gap space that you see. So see how I'm applying pressure down on that? That allows me, because if you do this, actually it's double crochet, you will see how it just kind of comes up over top of the hook and gets tangled. If you just apply pressure before doing that, it just allows it to keep it more stable. So you're going to put 2 double crochet into each one of these gaps and then chain 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, apply pressure, 2 double crochets into the next one. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, apply pressure, 2 double crochets, and continue to do that all the way around. We'll meet back up in a second and we'll carry on. So that's what it looks like so far. So I'm on my very last one and I've just filled it in there, and I just got to chain my 5, 3, 4, and 5, and slip stitch to the top of the chain 3 that we started off with, and voila, you should have 12. And I've already counted, pre-counted on off camera, and I have now 12 spaces. So let's move along to your next level, and in this one it's actually just very simple. So we're just going to chain 1 just like so, and now we are just going to put in 2 single crochets right around the chain, just like so. So now we're going to have the chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and now we skip over everything and go right into the next gap space for 3 single crochets. Okay, so let's skip again. So chain 3 and into the next one for 3 single crochets. And essentially what this is doing now is it's creating a beautiful little separation like you see in the motif. And again, just chain 3 and then 3 single crochets along the chain. So do that all the way. We'll meet back up in a second and you will see how fabulous this is looking, and we're almost done this motif at this point. And now I'm just about to finish, and I don't want a single crochet or slip stitch right into the beginning when we started. We do want to make sure that we jump over, because we need to make sure that we create that gap just like you see. So you see a gapping space every time you hit one of these, just like so. So on these motifs, this is the last revolution you do on them before you start attaching it to your neighbor, but because we have no neighbor at this point, we're just going to continue to finish this one off. So in the next part of this tutorial I'm going to show you how to do this, but then in the very next I'm going to show you how to attach it to its neighbor, and that it just makes complete sense at that point. So let's continue along with this tutorial. To begin, we're just going to chain up 1 and we're going to single crochet down into the beginning stitch that you started off with, and now we are going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3, and so there is a pattern here, so just be careful. So right in here is where all the work is going to end up. So every one of these here are the points, so we're going to maintain that at this point. So we're just going to double crochet ourselves into the gap where it does the Y shape. And now we want to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Come back down into that same gap space for another double crochet. See how I'm pushing down? I'm just applying a little pressure. And now 1, 2, and 3. So chaining a 3, and we just want to nail it, or just single crochet right into the center of the 3 single crochets that you had when you went on the line below. So let's begin that again. So that is your procedure, and you can see how you have your build up to the point, and that's how we want to play with this thing. So let's again, so chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and it now takes you to this gap space. So we're gonna double crochet in, and now chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now we come back into that same space for a double crochet. So we just finalized off that space, and now we need to attach it to these single crochet down here. So we 1, 2, and 3 single crochet down into those spaces down there. So I'm going to show you one more time, and this time I'm going to explain something different. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3, we go in. So when we're attaching it to the neighbor, this is exactly where we're going to be changing it slightly. So what we need to do is that we go 1, 2, and then the next one we would slip stitch around the neighbor, and then continue with 3, 4, just like so. And we come back down in for a double crochet, and then 1 and 2 and 3 coming into the middle. So we're going to be showing that in a little more detail next, and I want you to go all the way around, and basically you can see that the points are starting to form on this motif, and this is the final revolution, and we're going to be fastening off in just a second. We're just about to finish up, and we want to make sure that we get the very last one that we started off with. It's very easy to miss that one, and the only way to really tell if you miss it is that you can count all these points, and if you ended up with 11, you know that you're wrong. You remember that you do need your 12 points in order to connect with the neighbors properly. So we're just going to finish up with chaining a 3 first, and then coming into the gap space for your double crochet, chaining 5, and coming back into the gap space again. Oops, for a double crochet, and then we do need to make sure we do chain our 3, and we're going to slip stitch it to where we started off with, just like so, and that is it. So we just want to slip stitch, grab our scissors and cut, and it's easier to deal with the ends right now than it is to deal with it after. So we want to make sure we weave in our ends, trim them off really nicely. It's something that you don't have to worry about later at that point, and just kind of weave it in and then just trim. So in the very next part of this tutorial, I'm gonna do one off camera, and I'm gonna show you how to connect it with your neighbor. And remember, everything is done up until the very last row where we did our points, and next time we do our points we want to make sure we're reaching over to our neighbors. And so it doesn't matter how many neighbors that you have at that point. If you have maybe 2 to go, or maybe you have even up to 4, as long as you connect to your neighbors, you're good to go. So let's begin that part of the process next. Okay, a few minutes ago I just left you and I completed this off camera, and I want to attach this to the neighbor. So we want to make sure that we start off right away and we attach to the neighbor right away. It calls for that in the pattern, and you know what, just get it over with and done. And what we want to pay attention to is where all the points are on this one here, because that's what we want to play. So every time we attach the neighbor to the neighbor, we're only attaching by 2 points together. So we're going to start off right away, and I want you to begin to do this. And remember how we did this before, is that we just chained 3 to start, 1, 2, and 3, just like so. We come into the gap space, so we're going to double crochet. Okay, so here's where it changes slightly, and it's really not a big change. We're going to just chain 2, 1 and 2, and we want to grab the neighbor. Now we want to make sure that the neighbor is facing up the same way. So for example, this would be the wrong side, and so you can kind of see how it looks different from one side versus the other. So when we're grabbing with our neighbor, we want to make sure that it's the right sides facing together. So essentially we just want to slip in our hook around one of the points, the outside points, and we just want to get the yarn back into our hand, and we just want to grab that yarn and pull it through and through, and that's a slip stitch. And so now we continue chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then we come back down into the one that we're working on. So for a double crochet. So that we've just attached it one time, and so now let's chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and we come back into the center of the 3 single crochets, and now again chaining 1, 2 and 3. We're now into the next one coming, and just double crochet. And so remember, always 2 points are attaching to your neighbor. So 1 and 2, chaining 1 and 2, we grab the very next point that's available, okay, and we just go into the point, grabbing the yarn through and through, so now it's permanently attached, and then chain 2, 1 and 2, and then we come back down into the space. Okay, and then chain 3, 1, 2 and 3 into the single crochet. So if you were happen to, so the 2 neighbors are now attached together just like you see. Okay, so then this next point that I'm about to work on would be the next point of in between where all the motif pieces are going to be joining in the middle, and then the next 2 are then your neighbors going to this side. Okay, and then the next one is then the middle diagonal, and then the next 2 down here is the neighbor over here. The next one is the neighbor coming in the middle, it's the motif that's in the diagonal, and then these last 2 over here are the ones going in this direction, and then the final one in this over here is the neighbor that is in the middle of the motif. I know that was kind of hard to explain, but anyway, I'm just explaining that to you because it's going to make sense once you're going all the way around. So you just want to continue to finish this off. Now there's no more neighbors to attach to. You're going to finish it off just like you did with this gray one, and essentially that is it. So every time you go to attach these together, you just got to look and see where the neighbor is and attach it as you go. So in the next part of this tutorial, we're going to move to the middle ones right in the middle, and these are so simple it's not even funny. They'll just take you a few minutes, actually probably better a little less than an hour, to be able to do all 16 of them and attach everything together. So in this next part of this tutorial, we're going to be working on the center inner motifs just like so. You will notice that the inner and the outer look completely different because they're 2 different things. So what I need you to do is that I need you to complete all of these, okay, and these are 36 of these altogether. They're 9 going all the way across and 3 rows up, and you will have attached them right in the 2 points. And that'll leave these middle pieces just like so, where we're going to be using this inner motif. You cannot add one of these until you have 4 of the neighbors all together around it. So you can either do this as you go, as you complete 4 around, or you can wait to the end like I did. So essentially now we have a gap just like you see over here, and basically these points right here and here and here need to be attached together by doing the same thing that we did over there. And so basically let's start this next. These are really quick and simple. You'll be so surprised on how quick this is. To start off with, we are going to be doing a chaining of 10. So we're going to start off with a slip stitch just like we did before, slip knot, and then we chain 10. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I am using the boutique changes at this point, so if you see it changing, that is the yarn doing the work. We're going to form the ring just like we did with the other motifs, and in actual fact what we're doing with this chaining of 10 exists on all the motifs generally in order to create this pattern. So now we're just going to simply just chain up 3. So 1, 2, 3. This counts as a double crochet, and I need you to do 5 double crochets into the center. Get this center, or this starting thread just like so. Just pinch it down on top of it so we can hide it underneath, and we just want to do 5 double crochets all together. Okay, and with the chaining of 3 that counts as 1, so there's a total of 6. And essentially the reason why I'm just kind of explaining that whole double crochet idea is that there is 6 double crochets in between each one of the points of this. So now that I have my 5 that I just created and the 6th one, which is the chain, I'm now going to chain 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So again, just like you're attaching it to your neighbor, I made sure that this is the right side up, and essentially I just want to go into the gap space and I just want to grab the point. So I'm just going to grab the point that's over here. I'm going to slip my hook into the point. Okay, so not through a stitch, just through the gap itself, and just grab the yarn and pull it through, and that's a slip stitch, and then chain 3 again. So 1, 2, and 3, and now we're coming back down on top of the ring, and we're going to do 6 double crochets again. So I'm just going to grab that straggler. So that's, the straggler is the only thing that's kind of you know, a little bit of a pain to deal with, but you know what? Rome wasn't built in a day, neither was a crochet project. So let's just continue to get our way through. So this is 4 double crochets so far. We have 5 and 6. So every time you get your 6, you want to chain your 3 again. So 1, 2, and 3. And so this time we already grabbed the first one over here, so we're going to grab the next one on the other side, and we're just going to go into the space. So it's just a point, pull through and through, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we grab it again, so you can see it's grabbing in 2 spots now, and we're just going to double crochet 6 more times. 1. This is number 3, 4, 5. Oops, that was not. This is 5 and 6. And what does that mean? We start chaining a 3. 1, 2, 3, and we go to the next motif over here, and we go in, grab the yarn and through, and then 1, 2, and 3, and then back to the center for another 6. So we just have one more spot to join it to finalize off this motif. This is how fast this is. 4, 5, and 6. So what's that mean? Chaining 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to grab our final motif down on this side, going into the point, pulling it through and through, and then 1, 2, and 3. You are officially done, and we're just going to slip stitch it to the top of the chaining of 3 that you started off with, just like so, and voila, you're completely done. So you just have to trim off your yarn at this point, secured it into position, so just fasten it in like so, and just weave in your ends just like so. And so there you go. There is, I've just got to weave in my ends, and I can do that off camera, but you can kind of see now that that whole motif, it just grabbed it in all 4 locations, just all the way around, just like so. So I know it's kind of difficult to see, but it got it the work done, and that's exactly what we want to do. So I just want to weave in my ends, and then I want to show you the very last motif, which is the outside, to finalize off the shawl for today. Okay, so we're now going to finish our last part of this. So you're going to want to, this is my very last one I just did. I weaved in my ends, and you can see that it's grabbing all my neighbors just like so. There's a total of 16 of these ones grabbing in the middle. So it's on the very outside. There's another 16 that grab it from the outside only, and you can kind of see that it's grabbing there. And it's just very easy to do those as well. This is, I think most of the work is obviously in these big motifs just like so, but then grabbing it to the neighbor is actually very simple. So I want to direct your eyes over to here, because this is the most key element to it. Like anything, there's a pattern, and I want to show you what it is, because the instructions for this are really long, but actually the technique is actually very quick. So what you want to do is that you want to start off with your motif, and you're going to be grabbing it to the outside point. So if this had another point in the middle, just like you see up here, that you'll see that this is where you would have grabbed it, or would have grabbed it. So this is where you start, and then essentially, do you see how that there's gap spaces as you work all the way? That's exactly what you're looking for. So you're going to go into this gap, then we're going to go into the next one, and this is where they're joining. And you're going to go in there, you're going to go on this side of the join, and this one, and this one, and this one. So essentially we're working in the gap spaces that you can see all the way around in order to create what effects that we have going on within the outside circle. So once you understand that, it's actually very simple. So let's begin to do this one. Again, this one's a really quick motif as well. To begin, we're just going to do a slip knot, and you will see the yarn changing color. I can see it coming, and we essentially just want to chain 10. So it's just like we started off before. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And essentially what we want to do now is create a ring. So we're just going to go into the very start one again, pull the yarn through and through to form the ring. So we're just going to be doing exactly like we did the larger motifs again, and we're just going to chain up 3, 1, 2, and 3, and we want to come inside this ring a total of 23 double crochets. And with the chaining of 3, it actually means that there's going to be 24 going all the way around. So just do that. So again, just going all the way around with double crochets with a total of 24 altogether, which includes your chaining of 3. And what I normally do is that I throw in a whack of them at one time without counting, because you haven't heard me count yet. And that's how I do it. I just kind of throw enough in, and then I go back and count and just kind of count off the last few that are needed. So you can kind of eye it up and kind of speed yourself along, so you don't have to continue to count all the time. So I've now just come all the way back around, and I want to slip stitch it to the top of the chain 3 that we started off with, like so. You can kind of see this amazing changes yarn. It is really quite amazing. So now we're just going to simply just chain 1, and we're going to single crochet to where we joined. Now what we want to do is that we want to chain 1 just like so, but we need to go grab our project that we're working on, and we want to grab it and work on it at the same time. You can clearly just see where there's one there, so clearly there's one needed right here. So let's try to do this as easily as possible for you to see. So we've chained 1, and essentially I just want you to come into the outside. This is the very tip, okay, and I want you to go in, and we're just going to slip stitch it. So just pull through and through, and then chain 1, and what we want to do is come back down on the line, skip a double crochet, and single crochet into the next. So let's begin to do that again. So chain 1, and now this time we've already came into the outside, so we're just going to move to the next gap space, okay, and we just want to slip stitch it and chain 1. We want to skip a stitch down here and single crochet. So chain 1. So we're looking back again, so you can see this is the outside point. We've gone into this gap. Here's the next gap. You can clearly see it. You can just kind of pull it apart and see it. And then chain 1, skipping a stitch down here. Okay, chain 1. Okay, again we just want to look for the next available gap, sorry, going in. Chain 1, skipping a stitch down here, single crochet. Okay, we're coming in, so we're now coming over here. You can clearly see we're starting to work on the other side motif over here. And when you understand when to look for the gaps, it just saves all that counting. Okay, and we just want to continue to do the same thing. So when you come around back in, single crochet, chain 1, we're now looking for the next gap available in the motif, and we're making our way back around to the last point that you see over here. Coming down, we skip a stitch down here, single crochet, chain 1. Okay, the next gap, slip stitch, chain 1, skipping 1 down here, chain 1, and now this is the very final gap space that I can see. Chain 1, and now we just skip 1 down here and single crochet. So now down on the end you will have enough stitches to do 4 gap spaces, just like you see. So we chain 1 just like there, and we want to do that. We want to actually chain 3 at this point, so 1, 2, and 3. And think about it this way: when you chained 1 and you slip stitch, that's actually chaining a 2, and then you did a chain afterwards, so that's chaining a 3. So just think about it that way. That's why we're doing our chain 3 on this side. We're actually doing the same thing that we've already been doing, but we're not doing the slip stitching. We still skip the stitch, just like you see, chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3. We still skip. So what happens if you run out of stitches? Fake it. I know that's not always the right answer, but we're gonna do, this is our last one that we're about to do. So you have 3 spaces already, and now 1, 2, and 3, and we're coming into where we started down here, and voila, you are done. And so basically it's just fasten off this yarn at this point. My shawl is actually officially complete. I left a little bit of it so that I could show you how to do this project because I thought it was pretty cool. And this project actually didn't take very long, which is kind of shocking to me a bit because it looks pretty complicated, but once you break it down to all the different steps, it's actually very simple. So I'm just weaving my ends through, and then I'm going to go through and trim, and let's see what that looks like. So essentially that's what we have. I just finished it off, and it just needs to be tugged a little bit, and it's good to go, and the outside motif is now done. So now you know all the components to be able to make this bad boy very fun, very easy. You know what? I really enjoyed this process. It was a nice change from doing afghans and scarves all the time. Really challenged me because I never have done that before where I've attached as I've gone, and I've got my brain on different ideas now. Now that I understand how that works, it might be actually pretty fun for the future. Until next time, on behalf of redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd, have a fabulous day, and until next time, we'll see you on Facebook.